Okay, so we're going to have a few questions at our lineup of speakers, and we have special guests on the end, John Neal, who's an expert in ancient metrology, amongst other things. And also Christine Roan is another guest as well, who hosted the John Michell Memorial Lecture with Richard Heath. Along with Richard Heath, Peter Knight, Chris Hardy and Patrick McManaway. And Scotty's going to be running around with the mic, so if you have any questions, please use the mic so everyone can hear and we can pick it up on the recordings as well. So, who has a question, please?
Yeah, just in regards to your quarry lecture. So do you know of any sites where the stone circles or what have you are built near the quarries?
Stone circles that are built near the quarries.
Well, I guess you're usually pointing out sites that are hundreds of miles away from the quarry.
Well, no, it varies, to be honest with you. It does vary quite dramatically. Obviously, in the Preseli area, there are multiple stone circles, dolmens and other sites, not that far from that particular area. And you do get that. Baalbek's obviously very close to the main site. But yeah, I think you do get ones that are very close. You know, there's multiple examples of that where they just literally use the stone out of the ground and build it directly there and then. You get a lot of that with the megalithic chambers in New England, actually. They're just lifted from the ground or dug out and cut and then used pretty much in that area. So it varies, that one. It varies. Next question.
A question for Richard. You mentioned in your talk about the numbers and mathematics being used in stones in Northern Europe. How does that pair to mathematical systems from other places in the world, going farther right round until you come back to the other side?
Well, to the extent that I understand these things, because there are specialists, I think that the use of numbers is not really original in the original metrology, because the numbers are stored in the lengths. But they are eminently practical, and you can count them up, and you can do transformations with them, as with geometry. But when people started abstracting geometry, that would be with the Greeks that they created the actual theorem of the geometrical system. So in the ancient Near East, it's all about practical methods, and they are put down on cuneiform, and the scribes are responsible for writing cuneiform and making texts to learn it and teaching themselves in scribal schools how to do it. But I think something much simpler was probably going on in the megalithic period.
Hi, question for Hugh, just carrying on from Jim Vieira's talk there. My understanding from Ross Hamilton's research was that the mound builders and ancient monuments in America were the work of an ancient civilization, much older than the American Indians, and that the American Indians saw themselves as caretakers of those mounds. Jim Vieira's talk seemed to be contrary to that. Can you sort of explain anything according to that?
Yes, we will get into that in more detail tomorrow night. But very briefly, a lot of the early colonialists and members of the Smithsonian, antiquarian societies and others believed that there was a lost race, an advanced lost race, because there were several legends across North America with the Native Americans of a previous, very ancient, fair-skinned race, often with ginger or red hair. And bearded and things like this. And this was proven true in some places where they found these mummified remains in the southwest around Nevada. But often these were like cannibalistic giants harassing the Native Americans. And they did not look Native American, these people, the descriptions. They've even found evidence, obviously with the mummies, they were clearly Caucasian. So there's a lot of controversy about this, about the origins of who was really in America. But I think what Jim was saying is that many of the mounds do appear to be built by Native Americans. Some maybe weren't as well. So there's a real sort of mystery and a real crossover between these cultures. And it really questions, you know, it's such a large continent, why can't there be different, you know, slightly different colours of skin across a huge continent like that? And no doubt diffusionism was going on in prehistory as well, which is pretty much denied by the Smithsonian in particular. And so it's a real kind of cauldron of controversy and, you know, with all the racial things that are connected with that. But I think there's a combination of there's many different cultures there, you know, over many, many thousands of years, because some of the mummies with the red hair go back 9,000 or 10,000 years. And also they appear in California and Catalina Island and many other places. So it's a grey area, but we will get into that tomorrow night.
Imagine that you may, I pose the question, do you have absolute evidence of some of the giants' skeleton that could be partly alien, not human?
Oh, that's a very loaded question, Chris. Thank you very much. I don't personally have any bits of alien giant skeletons, but there's a lot of very strange skulls that have obviously been found, mainly in South America and Central America, but also in North America, which are really posing some very awkward questions. Double rows of teeth, we've got evidence of horned skulls, very unusual features in the skull. So I don't personally think they're alien. I think they're all different types of humanoid linked to Denisovans, Neanderthals, and Cro-Magnon man. But there may be another. There's something called Species X, which is sort of an unknown DNA kind of lineage, which is now being noted and recorded. So it's a very, very convoluted, complicated, and controversial subject. Any more questions?
Question to John Neal, or maybe others who would like to take it. The main question here is, what were the ancients up to, and which research area would you like to go into next? Where do you think that the biggest fruits are waiting for us to answer this big question? I was hoping to, John, if you could give it a try. Where would you hope that research would go now and we find new answers?
Yeah, okay. I think what the ancients were up to is what's trickled down to us in terms of customs, and all customs are about fertility. So the ancients were up to preserving the environment exactly as they found it, but they had a very high science.
What I would like to do is, what I am doing is, I'm interested in musical harmony actually, and the relationship of that to metrology and what the ancients were up to. The people don't like the term the ancients in academia, of course. You've got to say exactly which ones. I've been knocked down a bit by that. I got up again.
This guy in the fourth row back, yeah.
Hi, thanks for all the speakers. It's been a terrific day. Richard nicely brought the relationship between astronomy and the geometry on the ground together. And so we get the nice geometrical patterns like the triangles and such like, which seems fine for a localised area. But thinking about Chris's world grid and larger aspects, could the same things be extrapolated purely mathematically, or would it require a bigger overview?
Yeah, I don't know. I think there are other things at issue with a grid. And I think, you know, this what happened to them there was some particular special thing. So I used to look at the grid, you know, in the past. The people tried, you know, the Keeley and all these people that thought there was a grid underlying the Earth, in fact, like a geometrical structure. And I would say that you have to answer this, Chris. What do you think? What would be the relationship between the things that happen in Karnak, the country you come from, and your grid? Would there be any relationship between this geometry of astronomy?